Hey everybody, good evening. How are you tonight? Hey Aaron. Okay, so can you hear me okay? Hey Aaron. Okay, so can you hear me okay? Hey Lionel. Okay, so tonight I'm mixing down Aaron Cold, his real name Stefan, his track. But feel free to ask any questions whilst we're doing this. And yeah. Does it sound okay? I'm just going to play a little bit of the record. Can you just let me know if that's okay for you? Can you hear that okay? Is that okay now? Is that okay? For some reason I'm going in here. Oh, it's because you've got external in, no input. Okay. Right, please say hello if you're watching. Ask any questions as we're going. We're creating a nice little community here. So, thank you to Aaron, Stefan, for letting us mix his track live on air. It's, you know, I'm here to critique, and that's hard for some people to take. And it's the best way for learning. That's why I do the one-to-ones. You know, accelerate you finishing tracks quickly. So show him some support. Say hello to Aaron. And remember, we're all at a certain stage and we're all learning. So we're here to help each other, and that's why I'm here. Some people, you know, are just able to get stuff in and nothing else. Everyone's at a different level, so we're here to help them and hopefully to teach you things as well. So let's have a listen to his track. This is called Aaron Cold, House Rules. I won't play it all just in case he gets it signed. So we'll have a bit of a listen from here. Okay, great track, Aaron. Really nice. Let me just bounce a copy. You've not sent me a bounce. So I'm just going to bounce it quickly so I can listen to it. I'm just going to put it in there. Okay, so whilst it's bouncing, a couple of things. I thought it was really good. You're obviously a talented producer. I think the mix is a little cluttered, specifically up the top end. And I think that there's quite a bit of distortion going on. I don't know what that is. The kick doesn't have any weight to it, so I can't feel the kick. I'm going to put it on the big speakers in a second. And I think the bass isn't prominent enough. My whole feeling of the track as a guy who plays house music is it just goes on a bit long. You lose my interest a little bit. I think sections need to be cut down and just to be kept a bit more interesting. It just felt, it's great and it's really good. Might just need a full vocal. It just feels, yeah, like I'm on the way I look at music is this, you're creating a journey, and I just felt in between parts that it was just kind of the same. And if I look at your track, I can see, that is virtually the same all the way through. Besides a couple of fills and risers, and usually what I want to see is loads of different things happening at different times instead of just blocks like this. I know you've kind of added it in there. Really, around here, I want to be changing up the drums and, just doing little things which we'll go to in a bit, but that's more the production side of it. As far as the mix is concerned, I'm going to get straight in and have a look at it. The first thing I'm going to do is turn off your master, everything on your master, because we don't want to mix into master. And the reason why I say that is because, you might want to send this track to a mastering engineer who's going to want a bit of headroom. So I never mix into a limiter or a compressor. If I master it myself or do a DJ master, I will do after. But I do it flat. Now I can see here you've got two limiters. You've got a high cut on there. Okay, so let's get with the main parts. Let's see, take them off, see what the volumes are. Let's get the main part of the track, which I think is here. I mean, you're not clipping, but you're minus 1.55, so that's pretty loud. You're nearly clipping. And you're probably always better giving a bit of headroom for mastering. Okay, so let's have a look at the drums. Let's have a look at the kick first of all. Okay, well, you'd EQ'd all the bottom end out of the kick. I'm just going to listen on the other speakers. I'm just going to turn the mic off for a second. sorry about that. I was just saying that there's something a bit weird going on with the kick there. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to look at it. I'm going to have to listen to this on the speaker, so I'm going to have to keep turning you down. But let me know if there's any feedback. Okay, the kick. Okay, first of all, you're clipping everywhere. I would go to -12. What I do is this. I get everything in, I get it to -12, gain stage in it. So the fader at 0, no plugins on, and I turn down the sample in the sampler or the synth or audio, click on it, double click, and change it here. Now, I'm not going to do it right now because I don't think you're using any analog emulations, are you? But just be mindful, I just go to -12 and do it that way. I don't want to start gain staging everything because we're trying to show you a mix in an hour. Can you hear me okay now, guys? Okay, let's have a listen to the bass. Bass is yellow as well, guys. There's no argument about it. Okay. Okay. Okay, I don't know what you're doing there. So the bass, I only like to have two things under 180 hertz, 100 to 80 hertz or 100 hertz. I only like to have two things under there. Really, that's the kick and the bass. So I'm just going to isolate them. And I'm going to add in the other basses. I think you're complicating it. I think you're making it a little bit muddy for what you need. And when I reset that, it's just adding a bit more of the character in. So I just open up the when it comes to the bottom end, you know, you've got to watch having more than one bass and more things, because they're going to phase with each other and create issues. But the other thing is we're making dance music, and your problem with this track that you just said is the kick. Well, is it the kick, or is it everything else you've put around the kick? So adding 3 basses, similar frequencies, they've still got a bit of sub in them. They're just going to make a load of mud down there. And really what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them out for now and then come back later on in the track and put them in and go, okay, do we need them? So right now the kick's working a bit better, but it does sound a bit weird. Okay, looks okay. That's okay for now. So the foundation is the kick and the bass. Remember, the key to a good mix, Aaron, is the elements that you put in it, right? So I always like to just have one kick. If I can get one great kick, that's brilliant, yeah? But if I'm getting another kick to go with it, it's just a top bit like you've got there, which kind of works, okay? If I'm getting a bass, I might have a sub bass, but then I might have a mid-range separate and spread that or something like that. But I don't put loads of things under 100 hertz. I just try and keep, because remember, in the club we're feeling it. Dungu, dungu, dungu. I want to feel it as much as possible. That's why I isolate it. What you can hear when I'm isolating that is what you feel in the club. And house music's about feeling. Dance music's about feeling it. You're making it for the dance floor, so it has to feel like this on the dance floor. And what I'm hearing is the way you're mixing is with how it sounds, and it sounds okay, but you're not feeling it, and you've got to feel the warmth in your stomach. Do you know what I mean? Like you're in a club. I'm just going to balance this first, get the levels right, because that's the key to a mix. Getting the levels right first. Your fade is your best friend. Clipping here for some reason. Okay, your piano's clipping, right? It's clipping digitally, so we've got a problem. So really what I need to do is gain stage from the kick onwards. That's what I do. Like I said, I go to -12, so I'm going to look at your piano now. First of all, what we're going to do is this. I'm going to, let's look at this. Okay, so got quite a lot of volume drop when we go to mono. Now, is it exactly the same piano? Is it exactly the same piano? You just pan one left and pan one right? Okay, so we're going to have to turn the volume down of these gain stage on because they're way too loud. So I'm going to go to pianos, left and right. I'm going to highlight all the audio, come down here and turn it down. So it's the same piano. Okay, so you need to be mindful of this, Aaron, because you can get phase issues, and that's possibly why it's dropping down in volume. So let's have a listen to this. So what I'll do with this one, what I might try and do with this one is get pitch, 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 pitch. Is with this one, select track content. You can hear the phase in there. I'm just going to take the headphones off and listen and see and get it so it sounds right. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see if it's the phase that's making it drop in volume. See, it seems a lot louder now in mono. Let's just get them. What I'm doing is I'm just changing the pitch slightly to see which has got the strongest signal, and then go to mono and check it. Because you see, when I move one of these, as I move it, the volume will go down because of phasing a little bit. You can hear it phasing as I move it. Okay, let me just try something else as well. So what I'm doing is just making sure that they're not phasing. And so you can change, like a lot of the time we turn the pitch up on what we do with the guitars back in the day. We'd get a guitar, not the same one, pound one left, pound one right, and just pitch them slightly different until they sounded right, to listen if they were cancelling each other out. The other thing that I might do is try this, track options. Just try and delay one very slightly. that's what I'm doing now, Pad. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm just using my ears. No, I'm not. They actually sound better, both at the same point. So what I might do is get a bit of... Do you have Pro Q 3 or 4, Aaron? I'll get this for now. I'm going to change this to mids. So what I'm doing, I'm just seeing if I boost the mids, does it sound better there? And it does sound better, but it might be better taking down the sides, so doing the opposite. Yeah, it's just boosting it in general, that. So what I'm going to do with this is change that to sides and just turn all the sides down a little bit. Okay, so what we've done is we've tried the pitching up and pitching it down either side, the opposite way to each other. That didn't really do much. We tried moving it from left to right, one of them a little bit, to see if there was any phase issues. That wasn't doing anything. It's the sides were much louder than the center. So what I've done is I've just turned down the sides and turned it up as a whole. So what it does is turn down the sides, so the volume of it seemed to go lower, and then I've turned it all up. And then now when I go to mid, to mono, we've still got the sides, but the mono's in mono, it's a lot louder. Okay, so I really like them. I think they're really good. Your piano is your main instrument here, so now we're going to look at the relationship between the kick, the bass, and the piano. Before we go anywhere else, I want to get these right. That's funny that, because I just thought I'd turned left mono, right mono, and it didn't sound as good. It was phasing then. So what I'm thinking is, that's probably when moving it around. So if I did it again, what I'm trying to do is just get them sounding right. I would generally find a round piano, a wide piano that sounds good in mono, besides getting the same piano, doubling it and panning it left and right. Let me just check this out, see how this sounds. That sounds better. 1 second. So basically what I've done is turn them both to mono and then just delayed one of them slightly till it sounds best. But let's just mono them, unmono them both and listen to it before. And listen to the attack of it, the body of it. Let's go back to this one. Actually, I prefer it like that. Can I move hidden by PIP? Oh, hidden by me. Right, okay, right. Is that better? Okay. So, I like them. I think the piano sounds good. I think it sounds a bit thin. So, what I would probably have done here, I would probably have got another piano and put it the octave down. Just needs a bit of body, sounds a bit thin. What I might do is just try and copy these. And then just try it just for sounding. So it's +3. So -9. -9. Okay, let's have a listen to that. No, that didn't work. But yeah, I would possibly put something that needs a bit more body. It doesn't sound like really big. It just sounds nice. Okay, so you've got so I want a bit of that frequency. I found the frequency, and what I'm going to use, am I okay to use my plugins, Aaron? What I would normally use for that. So these are the main parts of the track, so they need to have lots of punch and lots of body and all really work together. And it just sounds a bit thin. And so I'd probably go for Spectre instead of an EQ and just add a bit. So what I did then was I found the character that I wanted to bring out in the mix with the kick and the bass. I wanted the bit that kind of just gave a bit more body and joined it, just kind of connected it to the bass, but not too much. So the bass was supporting. It felt like there was a bit of a gap in between the bass and the piano. Okay, so I like that. So that plugin was Spectre. And what I did was I just found the frequencies that I really liked and then just boosted them appropriately. But I did it in the mix. I didn't do it in isolation because I'm trying to make this piano work with everything else. And that's the thing about mixing. I am doing it in isolation first of all, just listening to it, getting my head around the mix, and then I'm going to do it in the mix. So let's get the next instruments in there. Sounds very muffled, and it feels like there's a lot around the 1200 kind of mark, and what I'm trying to do is just make everything sit together right, because this synth loop, it's actually a sample, isn't it? This synth loop is like, it's got loads. The problem you got with when you put a loop in with something, if you look at the frequencies, it's got loads of character and frequency in this, right? So I know you filtered it up, but like that's the frequency of the piano, you know, so it's kind of clashing with it a little bit. Vocals very distorted as well. I mean, that's the recording. And I'll come back to that in a second. Obviously it's got the delay on it. Has it got a delay on it, or is it a send? The vocal is the most important part of the track, and it's for some reason distorted. So if we have a look here, let's have a look at this one. So you've walked it with beats, that's the first thing. So if I get these clips, that's going to create a horrible sound on the vocal. Let's take it off. That's better already. You vocals use Complex Pro. Okay, so don't use such a harsh cue when it comes to EQing, because when you EQ something, especially with a low cut, where it hits the low cut, it creates a phase bump, which can create problems. And if you ease it in, it's better. So what it might be better to do, instead of using one of those on these, would be to use a shelf. So what I've done there, all I've done is change the warp on it and take off all these plugins that you've put on it, and it sounds miles better. Well, it's actually the warp. I've put them back on because that's obviously the sound that you wanted in it. Okay, let's get. All I'm doing at the moment is the level and a bit of just slight amendments. Because a lot of the time, when I come to a mix, all I do is get the levels right, and the mix is 90% there. Okay. Do you remember your kick was lost a little bit? The problem was your kick at the beginning, wasn't it? So I always have my kick as a separate audio. Yeah, I always have the kick there separate. I never have it as a loop with other things in there. Same with the clap, because the backbeat is one of the most important parts to your dynamics of your track. But more importantly, what you're doing is you're adding another sound to the kick, right? And all I want is one great kick to really, really cut through. And I think that the kick part of that is creating problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to it, open it up. you've still got the kick in it. You're always going to be better just to have a clap, right? I've got to leave it in because the kick is here, and the tone of the kick on there will make it different to that. So what I would do always is get a separate clap. What's this one? This one's the same, isn't it? Oh, that's mine. I've just done that. So yeah, so the kick, the open hat, right? The clap, especially this music, needs to be separate and not in a loop, really. I'm not saying never, never do it, but if you really want that punch and you really want it to cut through, then the clap's always better. Let me just see if this works. I don't think it is going to do. Ah. See what I would do for this, it's about drum replacement. It's all about sample choice. I would straight away just get a clap in there that works. So what you've got in there is like an 808 type clap. So get a drum rack in there, get a clap. Like that. It's a drum machine one. I'm going to put it. Okay. That's weird. Just sounds a bit weird, that, doesn't it? What I'll do is, just because it's a pre-shifted clap, I'll just move it to the left a little bit. For some reason, kick's got more attack when it's like that, and the clap's got more body and really cuts through the mix a lot more. Do you like that? There's no feedback there, is there, guys? Does it sound okay? Okay, so I'm just trying to get the balance right. What I've done, I've started with the leads. I've got the vocal in there. I've got the piano in there. I like the levels, right? I've got the kick and the bass. Now I want the clap. I want the clap to come through, and I'm going in the order of the level of importance. And now I've got this snare. I mean, that's a nice loop, that. But if you look, it's very dirty. There's loads of reverb and stuff in there that, well, let's have a listen. It's just a bit too messy, I think. Everything's a little bit like kind of loopy with all the different reverbs and everything else in there. The gates. Is that the same loop pan left and right? Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. If this was me and I like that loop, what I would do is I would get it and I would chop it up. But again, it's got reverb there, hasn't it? It's got loads of reverb in, so that's got loads of reverb in. The hat's got loads of reverb in. The drum loop's got loads of reverb in. And all this stuff is making your track muddy. So, I would go into RX, I would put a reverb off there, but I'm trying to use the plugins that you've got. Don't do that. You're just asking for problems, right? You're asking for problems for two reasons. Number one, phase issues, right? Because you've got two things exactly the same and they're going to be cancelling each other out, possibly. Okay. The second problem with that is your track's lacking energy and we're trying to get it loud. Okay. So what you've got to imagine is this, right? As soon as something hits the limiter on the master, right? As soon as something hits them on the limiter, right? That's the point where the limiter starts compressing. And the sooner it starts compressing, the sooner it's going to start distorting and getting what we don't like. Okay? So the less energy we put in, is going to give us more headroom at the end because the volume's not going to be as loud, the peak volume, and it's going to hit the limiter later. Right? Just think about it as everything's energy, right? And what you're doing is you're doubling these loops up. You've got all these reverbs. You've got all this extra stuff in there that isn't adding anything to the track. But what it is doing is possibly ruining your mix because it's possibility of phasing, but it's also adding that extra energy in. So when I'm trying to get it louder, it's like, oh, hang on a second. There's something going on here, and that's because there's too much in there. The less it's in your track, the louder you can get your track. And it is important to get your track loud. And the other thing is, the more you've got in the track, the less it punches. And I think that's a part of your problem. So I always tell people there's 20 hertz here, there's 20,000, 20k here, right? You've got your mid, you've got your sides, you've got left, you've got right, you've got forwards in the mix and backwards in the mix. Okay? So I want a hat, an open hat, and I like the kick, the bass, the clap, and the hi-hat to be central in dance music, right? Because that's where the energy is and the punch, okay? And then I like to move things around and up and down, right? So when I've got a hat, so if I've got one hat loop and it's at, let's say 14k, I won't bring another hat loop in that's at 14k because it's going to hide it. It's going to be in front of it, right? What I want to do is bring one in that's a bit higher up, or one that's main character is a little bit low down, so that I can hear both of them playing at the same time. And what you've done there is you've just added loops. I would say loops are a key part of house music. They give it that dirtiness that we're looking for, right? But always have certain elements as singular elements. So use your drum rack a lot more and less loops, because the more loops you have, the more mess you have. And because you're adding loops in that are from different sample packs with the shaker and the hats and the drums, right, and the clap, they're all just putting shit in your mix, which is taking away from the punch of your kick, right, and your clap and the dynamics of everything else in there. So the whole thing about your drums is this. So imagine, right, imagine a drummer, so a band. So it goes dum dum da dum dum da da dum dum da dum 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 da. Okay. Did you notice how when I hit the snare or the clap, my body was moving like that, and I was moving to all the bits? Okay, that's what the drums are about. That's a rhythm section, right? Sorry, that's the drums. So I want, in dance music and tech house and house music, yeah, we're dancing to the piano and the vocals, but it's the groove of the track that we really need. And the more you put different loops in, the more you lose the groove, right? And loops are essential, right? It sounds too clean without loops, but I want that. Oh, there's something that I want to really kind of move me, or, you know, with a snare loop. So if I had a snare in there, a snare loop, I'd want that to be able to cut through. And then I'd choose loops that don't muddy the mix or hide that groove, but complement it. So one thing I teach when I'm teaching one-to-ones is, you know, always start with the lead. So we've got the vocal, lead 1. We've got the piano, lead 2. We've got the bass and the kick, lead 3. Okay? Because they're on their own sometime. Okay? And then we've got the pad, lead 4. And the guitar, lead 5. Okay? And then we've got the clap, lead 6. Okay? I don't want anything in the way of the clap. And then I've got the offbeat hi-hat, lead 7. And then I've got the snare, lead 8. Right? And whatever, and I add things in that order to the mix as I'm producing the record, so that when I add a high loop, let's just say I add this. Okay, I'm going to take the gate off. I'm going to look at where the frequencies are, the frequency recognition. And then when I add this one, I'm going to say, is it getting in the way of it? No, it's not. But what I'm hearing is a slightly different grooves. But what I'm hearing is there's just all this reverb and all this shit in there that is I don't think it's adding anything to it. I think one of them with the reverb on will help, possibly. But don't forget, you're just adding stuff in that you don't need. He's like, do I need that reverb on that loop? And the answer's on one of them, possibly yes. It's got a nice vibe. The answer on 2 is possibly no. Yeah, thanks, Pad. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm old school, so I use a gate. It's pretty much the same thing. The gate was doing the job, really. So your groove is a... So you've got the 16s there, and you've got this open hat here. really, it's like a real hi-hat loop. And the question you've got to ask yourself is like, is this right for this track? So for example, if I go back to if I go back to this and I add open hat instead of a loop, remembering I've already got a loop there, like, is this going to be better? Remember, a mix is only good as the parts that you put in. Let's just put that one in for now. That's weird. It's not opened up. Let's just try and open out this way. Now, one of the things I say to people when they're mixing tracks, when my clients are coming in, is this: right? Is it genre appropriate? Yeah, and is it doing the offbeat hat in this kind of music is really important. So let's have a listen. Now what I've done is I've got lead 1, lead 2, lead 4 in there. Hey KRX NYC. So now what I'm doing is I'm just trying to find an offbeat hi-hat that works in there. Okay. What I'm doing is, so what I've done is I have got the drum rack and I have added an open hat in there. And what I did was I'm auditioning different hi-hats in the mix, right? Because it's not important how it sounds with just the drums. It's important how it cuts through the mix. And again, it's about different frequencies. That's why I always work in MIDI mostly for the kick, the clap, the open hat and the closed hat, because I might change them at the end. Because if you start off with drums in your bass and you go, okay, I really like them, and then you add a piano and then you add a pad and then you add this, right? The synth's got all the top end in it. All those things are hiding certain frequencies of your drums. So when you get to the end of it, if you do it that way and you're stuck in your mind that you like them drums, but your mix isn't right, that's because you've gone around it the wrong way. You've started off with lead 14, you know, as opposed to working with lead 1. And that's why I always say to people to start with the lead of the track and then work down and complement it, because that's the most important thing for driving the track. So in this case, it's the vocal or the piano, yeah? And then it's the bass that has to work with the piano. And then it's the synths, you know, and so on and so on and so on. And what I'm doing is I'm going, okay, that piano I love. That's the main thing for the mix, okay? The next thing is a bass, right? And if I put a bass in, it's got loads of mids and high mids in it, like a donkey bass, it's going to clash with it. So I don't want that. So I want to add the bass to the piano, not the piano to the bass. And then the kick, does the kick work with the bass right? And then I'll add all the different parts. And at the end, I'll always start with the kick and the clap, but I'll always go back and change it, like I'm doing now with your hi-hat, to see what works best in the mix. So let's A-B how it was before to how it is now, and tell me about the dynamics and the punch and the feel of it. Can you hear You can't even hear really your clap in your hat. You couldn't before. That's because they're lost in the loops. But when we have this in, it really cuts through. We've still got your loop shaker in there. Obviously, I'm going to have to change the mix. The piano's too low because we've had to gain stage. And like I said, we've only got an hour and we've gone over already. So I would gain stage everything, Aaron, properly, and then go back to it. So now we've added the piano. Now I know the piano needs to come up in volume. What I need to do is turn everything else down. So let me just turn down the bass. Okay, so I think there's a lot to go into this mix, and the key takeaway from today really is start with your main element always, and then work down. And a lot of people, all my clients are just like you, Aaron. Virtually every single one of them that come to me, they don't understand frequency recognition and character recognition, and they put stuff in and they're tuning in individually to stuff, okay? And everyone's the same, and they start with the drums and the bass, and then but really you need to get your lead sound in there. Make sure your lead's a killer sound, yeah, and the frequency and the body and the melody and everything else, and then work everything to that and say to yourself, like, is this sound that I'm putting in now overlapping in the frequencies, yeah, of the sound that's a lead above it? So if I had that pad, like, how is that pad the synth sound you've got, interacting with the piano. Well, it's kind of taking away from the piano a little bit. There is something nice about that pad, and I'd have to work really hard to mix this track to get that to work. And there's also a melody in that pad, which you don't hear because it's in the background. So it's like, again, it's a bit more mud. And straight away, you know, I'm nowhere near mixing. All I'm doing is getting the levels right, and I've still not got some stuff in there. But it's got a lot more punch, and it's got the feeling of the bottom end right here. There's no thump on the kick, there's no punch, which you said was your problem. But really, your top end's better now. So can you hear the kick now? Boom, 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 boom. That's what you're feeling in the club. We're making the music for the clubs. Yeah? And then you got there. Now, I know I'm being harsh, Aaron, but that's all your loops. That's all your different parts of your loops in there that are creating that. And all I've done is just cut them loops down for what I want. So if I've got a loop and it's got a snare in it, right, and it's got a filtered out kick and a hat, do I want the kick and the hat, or do I just want that snare? I just want the snare. Okay, well, let's take everything else out and just put the snare in that position, right? Is that still working? Yeah. Or, oh no, I liked what was in that loop. The loop was adding a character to the track. I'm going to keep the loop in. What's it affecting? What's it clashing with? A mix is as good as the parts that you use. And you mute the track's really good, you know. But when you A/B it, just isolating the frequencies like this, you can hear where your punch has gone. I mean, listen to the punch on the kick. It's a lot louder, but there's like a woo, woo in there. There's another thing that's part of one of your loops that's taken away from the transient of the kick. Let's listen to the low mids. Obviously I need to turn the piano up. Now, listen to the attack of the piano now, okay? Listen to the attack of the piano, right? Your lead instrument. Listen to the attack of it when it's on blue, which is my mix, and orange, which is your mix. These are the things that are really... What I'm mixing for is feeling here, not just how I'm hearing it. And the feeling is the most important thing. So in the bottom end, I really want the punch and the dynamics. That's what dance music's about. I mean, there's loads of frequencies that we need to work on with Soothe there. But even there's like loads of stuff that's making me go, oh, and that's just a combination of all the different sounds. So if I was doing a mix on this track, it would probably take me a full day. Because I'd want to change a few of the elements, arrange it all. It is a great track. It's a great track. It's just the sample choices, I would say, that is the thing. And we're here to teach, Aaron. You know, there's a lot to look at in this mix. It's a bit harsh up there. Listen to the hi-hats. Yours has got a little something extra in there. I've not looked at all the loops that we could possibly add in there, but we've definitely got a bit more of the offbeat in there. tilted the mix more to your reference track, okay? But the reference track, let's just listen to the reference track. Okay, so the kick, the clap, and the snare roll sound like they're not a loop, right? They sound like they're really kind of grooving and really punching and really cutting through the mix. And there is a loop in there that's filling it up, but it's quite thin and it's wider and it's a different frequency. You see how clean that is towards you, and we've got the weight of the kick in there now. Mix, my rule of thumb, you know, there's lots of ways to skin a cat, is kick MIDI on its own, clap MIDI on its own. Sometimes I put a loop over that that's got a clap in it and it improves the clap, but I always have that clap in the center that really punches through, okay, like his does, right? And the thing is, if I want to turn the clap up, yeah, I've got to turn the kick sound up and I've got to turn the loop up and everything else. I don't want to do that. I just want to turn the clap up. I've got more control of the whole mix, okay? So what he's done, he's got a good kick, he's got a clap, he's got this snare roll, he's got an offbeat hi-hat that to me all sound like the separate items. They don't feel like they're part of loops. And then what's happened is he's added this loop inside to make it housey, give us that old school feel. Yeah, he might not have done, you know, like I said. But that's why he's got this punch. And the piano's not dead high and dead up there. It's in the mix, but the kick, the clap, and them drums are constant throughout, constantly driving the track. Okay, the other thing about his bass line, it's a very solid bass line, so it's got a sharp attack on it and it's round at the top, and his frequencies go a lot higher up, where your higher frequencies sound a bit sawtoothy and not as round, and that's why his bass line has more definition through the mid-range that's coming through the mix. But yours is good. Now we need to do, what we need to work on is get some width, a bit more. He's got a vocal that really makes a track sound big. Do you like those drums, Aaron? Are you happy so far with the way it's gone? We're getting there. Okay, we've gone over the mix so far. I'm going to send you this project back to Aaron, and I'll have a chat with you tomorrow. We'll jump on Zoom, and I'll come up with some ideas for you. But what I would do if I was you is get the kick in MIDI. And you see, what I have here is I have my sample pack. So the sample pack is all things I know would work in my music, right? I think I know you've been on a few nights, so you've seen that. So they're all got different characters and different frequencies. A lot of them, most of them have got a bit of weight on the bottom end. But I choose the kick that's right for the track. If this was my track, like as a label, if I was going to sign this track and help you with the mix, I would get the kick into MIDI and get the groove so it really whacks. And I don't think loops do that. If you like that hi-hat loop, keep that hi-hat loop. I like what that snare's doing. It's backing up, it's reinforcing the body of that clap, making it not sound too 808, too 707, whatever it is. We've taken these hats out, which I think sounds better. What's this other one? Okay, I really like what that loop does. I mean, I really like what it does. It's not like the other track where you've definitely got a snare that's kind of creating the melody or the groove. It's just adding in there, and there's a couple of hits there that when you take it out, you go, oh no, I need that back in. And that's a really good loop, I would say, to everyone. Look, I think them drums sound great now. Okay, right. I don't think you need that, but if you want that snaring, go in and just keep the doo-doo. Like there's there's a snare in there that's like, you know, I don't know if you need that. It's kind of, and it's on the kick. So I reckon that might be the loop in the bottom end was creating problems with your kick. I really like it. Okay, let me just have a listen to the top end of this one. I think you don't need this close hat loop either, because when I take that out, the top end of this with your open hat kind of really grooves, you know. It's key thing here is loops are really important, right? And this loop here is amazing. Okay, is it a great loop? Yes, it sounds great. It's really adding to the track. This one is taken away from the groove of this with everything else when you add it in. That sounds great. Let's get the piano in. There's something about that synth loop that I don't like. But listen to it now. Listen how punchy that is now. There's a bit more stuff going on. I mean, I've not started mixing it properly yet, or adding stuff, or saturation a bit more, but we're in the ballpark. You know, if you played this record and then yours, we're getting there. But if you played this record, you've lost all the energy. I understand about having the old school groove with it, but we're not hearing the old school groove because it's lost in the other loops. That's a problem with too many loops. If you get a groove going, so you've got a great groove, and then you add another loop in, and you're concentrating on the new loop, but you've lost the groove of the track. You know, if there's a couple of elements which complement the groove you've already got, then take them out of the loop. That's just my opinion. You know, you can keep it in, you can take it out. For me, it's just feeling like it's more of a house track now. that is brilliant. That is brilliant, Aaron. All I've done is take stuff out and add an open heart and a different clap, right? All I've done is taking stuff out, and now your groove's bouncing. It sounds great. And then what I would do is this. I would get your drums. Tops. And I would put, I can press it. I'm going to use an LFO on there, on both drums, and just make them all bounce together, right? Now remember, when you do this, you've got to go to the clap because you're taking down on the clap. So what I'm doing, you've got all these different loops and different sounds and different reverbs. And what I do is, on everything, I put an LFO tool for dance music. It's like putting a glue compressor on. But what it's doing is, it's just giving it that pumping sound, but you won't be able to hear the pumping when you take it off. But what it's doing is just making everything kind of join together. I'm with you, KRX. Do you remember what I was speaking about before about the groove of dum dum dak dum dum dum? I've got that now. I've got it. You've got a great groove there, right? And the bass line works really well with it. You could possibly get a better, you know, could I get a better sound? Yes, you possibly could, right? But to me, that's as good as any track on Tool Room for the drums. It needs some finer adjustments. It's as good as, you know, something you hear on the labels that you're trying to get on. And it's got the bottom end. I might use what key's the kick in. Let's have a look at what key the kick's in. So he kicks in A. You know, I may find a different kick, or try this. Just pitched the kick down 2 semitones, and what that did was it gave that thump at the bottom end. I need to listen to it, but you know, the frequency of the kick's important. So now I've just taken that down to a G from an A. Now I've got that woof, that bottom end, that thump you get in a club, which is just like the other track. But now, are we sounding better than the other track? Yeah, what a difference. Yeah, it's just, yeah, sounds much better. The key of your kick is important. Got to tell you, be very mindful when you're tuning kicks, because they can sound terrible. Remember, the key is sample choice is everything for a great mix, right? So if you want a bit of bottom end and that thump in your kick, choose a kick straight away that's got it in. You know, I don't like pitching kicks really. Maybe 1 semitone, 2 semitones. It can make them a bit flangey, a bit weird. And also, if your kick's got some character at 400 and 1200, it's going to pitch it down and make it a different kick. Just be very mindful. You've got the top of your kick on a separate kick, so it sounded okay. It's about feeling, you know. Let's have a look at your kick there as well. Look at the bass quickly. Look at the audio. I would sidechain the hell out of that. You might have already done it, but it doesn't look like it. I'm just going to use the LFO tool for now. I'm not saying that's what Wow, that is helping the transit of the kick massively, and that's what I'm feeling in the club. I want to get as much definition and transient out the kick and the bass playing against each other in the bottom end as possible, because that's what it's about in the club. That's what I'm feeling in the club, remember. Now I've pitched the kick down, it seems to be a bit tubby and a bit long, so I would look at a different kick. But like this track here now, I'm going to take the piano out because I think you can get a bit of piano as well. A little bit of work on the kick. That groove there with the vocal and the synth sounds brilliant. And I've not actually mixed it. All I've done is done the levels and take stuff out. And the groove of the guitar is slightly different to the groove of the drums. I think the guitar's okay. You know, ask yourself, is this a 10 out of 10? You know, the piano comes in first. Guitar's okay. I'll kind of try and get it to work with the drums a little bit more. Right, so the guitar in that is kind of messing with, it's clashing with your drums. I mean, it's acceptable, but don't forget you've got another rhythm in there. Yeah, a 9 kick might work. Like I said, I would just go through a set of kicks. Choose a kick that just cuts through the most in the mix. It's got the bottom end. It's got the feeling you're looking for. Like I did with the clap, like I did with the open out. Find something that works with everything else when they're in the mix. There's something about that synth I don't like with the piano. For me, it's too messy. I like it on its own. Like. So, for example, right, if I was making this track, and let's just say that was the first thing that I had, yeah, everything that's lead one, right, at the beginning. Everything has to work with that, right? It has to work with. Sorry, I can't sing, right? But the rhythm of it and the melody and the guitar, my drums need to work with that, right? You need to listen to it and tune into it. That's lead, right? Let's just say you put that in first, and then you get your loop in there, and you go. You've got to ask yourself: is my snare and the groove of my snare and my hats clashing with the groove of that? Because as soon as you put a separate loop on top of it, you lose the groove because you've got two different grooves going, and my body's going a bit like, what am I dancing to here? You know, it's about the feeling of it. I get why you like that, and I love that. It's a great loop. But for me, it's creating problems. You know, is there space for a pad? Just the pad part of it? Yes, of course there's. Maybe you need to go back and look at another pad. We've gone well over tonight. Thank you everyone for keeping listening. There's still quite a few people here. Hi Kipper. A couple of Americans on board. Thank you very much. And I'm assuming KRX NYC's from America. So yeah, we've got quite a few Americans on board. A lot of my clients are from America. Using that loop for another track and remove here, I possibly would. I just think it's too busy. You know, when we take this down to the drums, it sounds mega. And then when we add that in the piano, and it just kind of doesn't have the same feeling and grooviness of what you've got already. I'll put a phone call in with you after this, Aaron. I'll give you a shout. I've been quite harsh with you. Sorry, but you know, we're here to learn, and I'm like this with all my clients. I think the problem with Aaron is you need to go back to the fundamentals. You need to learn the basics, right? And like I said, you're like every one of my clients that I do one-to-one mentorship with. The first thing we do is we go back and we tune into, you know, we get your music and what kind of kicks, what kind of claps, and the feeling of the music. And that's how you choose your sounds, you know. But we also go back to the basics of frequency recognition and character recognition, putting things in the mix and lead 1, lead 2, lead 4, loads of different things. If you don't master these basic things, you're never going to get past where you are now. Has that helped everyone? Have you enjoyed it? Any questions from anyone else about anything I've done tonight? Pad, regarding the forward mode, in transit mode, I don't come from Ableton because I do know what you're talking about. If you go into it and you go to, I can't remember what it was now. I'm going to look at that tomorrow to see how you do it. Just a quick thing, talking about all the loops and different melodies, sometimes you can extract the groove from one loop. So if you've got one loop, let's just say with the snaring and everything else, you can extract the groove and you can apply that groove to anything else. And that might help solve your problems. It might make it terrible, but it might help you solve it. Beats. Oh yeah. Yeah. So you go to that and then you mess around with this, I remember. I use Cubase, I use Ableton, I use everything. So I don't claim to be an Ableton teacher. I just claim to how to be able to help you mix and produce. Key takes from today before we finish, everybody. Sample choice is everything. Always start with your lead. And then when you're adding things in, ask yourself, you know, is it overlapping anything? Is it creating problems anything? Is it taking away from the groove? You know, remember the piano is the most, or it will be the most important thing. And then add the bass in. Is the top of the bass clashing with the bottom of the piano? You know, then add the kick in. Do what I do, isolate the bottom end and work on them both to make them work. Add the synth in, right? Okay, is the melody of the guitar and the synth clashing with the melody because it's percussive of the drum loop? Yes, it is. Ah, right. Okay. Do I like it? In and out, in and out. Every time I took it out, I didn't like it. Did I like the pad sound in that loop, in that sample? Oh, yes, I did. Every time you add something, think about, you know, what it's in the space of, and is that thing that you're hiding possibly more important or less important? And it's about choosing the right sound and seeing how that connects with everything else in the mix. If you're starting with lead 1, lead 2, lead 4, lead 3, lead 4, you're always going to do it. That's why when I make a track, I have my kick, my hi-hat, my clap, and my bass in MIDI first of all. Yeah. And I'll keep it right to the end, and then I'll go back and go, can I change the kick at the end? Will it fit better with what is new in the track? Both, Pad. Would you choose kicks from sample packs or more steel kicks? Well, I do both. These are mine, and as you can see in them, that's Purple Disco sample. I go through and just find things that I really like. They're all sample packs, but then you go down. This is one that I got off Daily Paddler years ago, since 82. Mad Skills Fat Kick, which means I've sampled it off a record. Mike Vale. Oliver something. I'm always looking for things that I might like. So I have a mixture of everything. I also use a lot of the time, not necessarily in house, but more like EDM and stuff like that. I will sometimes use Kick 3 or Punchbox and just had the bottom end from that in tune. Now, Kipper, my man, Kick 3, yes, I bought it. I've just not had a chance to play with it yet, but that looks amazing. And what I might do is, before the end of the next week, have a real good play with that and do something on here, do a tutorial on it, and go through Kick 3. So what happens in Kick 3, everybody, is I'll show you tomorrow. I'll have a play with Kick 3. You can pull in a sample or a record, narrow it down to the kick, and it will re-synthesize that kick and split it between the top and the bottom. That's all I've seen. It looks amazing. I've upgraded to it. But yes, Kipper, my only worry about that, and I don't know what it is yet, is that there's something similar with Steinberg called Steinberg Backbone. It just doesn't quite sound the same. And don't forget, house music, this kind of house music specifically, is all about sampling. All the old house tracks, a lot of it was sampled. It was drum machines, wasn't really synthesized. Chop Suey from Signese, worth looking at too. No, I've got too many plugins. I keep buying them. Okay, guys, good session. And I hope you learnt a lot. Thank you for joining us. Please tell everyone about this. Great to see you Americans on board. Lionel, hope you're good. Adrian, thanks for joining us again. Please tell everyone. I'm going to be doing more Q&A tomorrow. I might even look at Kick 3 and see if I can get that working and try and figure it out for you. Please tell everyone, because, tonight was a Mixdown, but tomorrow night I can answer any questions you've got or listen to things and just kind of give my experience. Good night. See you later. Thank you for asking questions, everybody. I really appreciate it.